You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
But for me, the crisis was in 1992, right after WrestleMania 8, and I was confronted by my wife for running around, and that was the game changer for me. That was the hard look in the mirror, and what are you doing? The things that you value most in your life, the things that really matter, are your wife and your kids. And yet, I was out there stroking my ego, and like so many other guys down the road, and I just said, you know what, and I thought of my dad, and of course I was raised in a Christian home, and I went back to those values, and the hardest thing I ever had to do was face my wife and tell her everything. It's just horrible, but it was also the worst and the best day of my life all at the same time, because from that day forward, the focus changed. And so instead of my first obligation being to my career, my first obligation is to God. And my next obligation is to my wife and my family. And my third obligation is my career. And when I did that, the dynamic of my life changed, and I've never been the same since. Of course, I never dreamed in a million years that one day I would, walk away from wrestling and be in ministry. I just didn't see that coming. And that's a story too long to tell here, but I'm very happy doing the things I do. I do a lot of stuff with kids. I speak to a lot of men. I go to prisons. I go to rehab centers. I'm going to New Zealand this summer, and then I'm coming back. That's in July, and then in August I'm going to Great Britain. And actually, while I'm in Great Britain, I'm going to do 2 Comic-Cons with Hacksaw, and then I'm going to do an event in Scotland for a guy that I've known for several years now, and his name is David Lowe, and his wrestling outfit is called SWE, Scottish Wrestling Entertainment, and Terry Funk is going to be on the card.
Awesome.
So I'm going to be with the Funkster again, and Terry, Dory, Harley Race, Dick Murdoch, those are the guys, Cowboy Bill Watts, those are the guys that shaped my career, that made me or helped me become a good wrestler. And I owe a lot to those guys.
Ted, you were talking about men. It was roughly about this time last year where I had the great opportunity to go to a church here in Indiana and hear you speak. And to this day, it still has a profound message that keeps ringing through my ear. And you were talking about men, and their relationship with their wives, talking about men and their relationship with their children, specifically their sons. Very, very powerful message. What is it? I'm not going to go in and tell your whole sermon, but what is the primary message that you're really trying to get across to these guys?
Well, and I speak to a lot of men, and I try to make men realize, number one, that the first obligation as a man, if you're married, is the most important relationship in your life is not with your wife, it's with your God, and more specifically, Jesus Christ. And as a husband, there's a scripture where it says, "Wives, submit unto your husband as unto the Lord." Guys like to hear that, but if they read just a little bit further, it says, "Men, love your wives as Christ loved the church." Well, Christ died for the church, because we're the church. The church is the body of believers. And basically, Jesus came into the world specifically to die and be the sacrifice for the world, for all of us. So, and Jesus, his own words were, "I came to serve, not to be served, and I give my life as a ransom for many." And I said, I wonder how many macho men out there have ever heard the term servant husband. That whole thing about, the wife meeting you at the door with the paper and the meals on the table, and all the guy does is go to work and bring home the bread. That ain't it, Jack. That ain't it at all. We live in a country right now where 30% of the children being raised in this country do not have dads. Now, I'm going to tell you something that's pretty frightening. Post-World War I, 16% fatherlessness in Germany. But those kids lost their dads to a war. Now, we're talking 16%. We're not 16% in Germany, 30% in the United States right now. Well, and then along came a guy named Adolf Hitler, and that's who became daddy. And we know the rest of that story. So
Right.
it's scary, guys, and that's why I go out and I preach it all the time, you know. I tell guys all the time, you know, all that macho crap you believe, all, that stuff about, big biceps, big bank account, and, that's what guys, in the secular world, in our culture today, they evaluate their masculinity by those things, how much beer they can drink, how big their biceps are, what kind of car they drive, what kind of clothes they wear, how many women they can bed, and I'll tell any guy who thinks that's being a man, I got 2 words for you: grow up. Because I've been there, I've done that, and I found it to be a lie. I'm not really a $1 million man. I am not independently wealthy. I probably walked away from the most productive years of my career when I stepped away. And I had a neck injury, but I could have had surgery and I could have gone back to work. But I chose not to. I chose not to because I chose my family and I made them first. And I probably gave up a lot of money. But today I am happily married for 33 years. I have the love and the respect of my wife. I have the love and the respect of my children. And I have the fortune and the pleasure and the joy of watching my grandchildren grow up. And there's a lot of guys, unfortunately, that I worked with through the years that don't have the opportunity to do that, either because of divorce or because some of them are dead. So I think I made the right choice. And that's why I keep going, and that's why I keep sharing this, because, no, I'm not really a rich guy, but I'm rich in ways that you can't, describe, like, you can't put a price tag on those other things. I have a peace in my life that a lot of guys don't have. And money's not going to make you happy. It's like, it's a known fact that people who hit the lotto, 90% of the people that hit the lotto and become rich overnight end up worse off than they were before, and miserable. It's a known fact. So, like the $1 Million Man character, moron.
Hey, ZP, I know you had another question for Ted before we let him go for the evening.
Oh, I just wanted to ask you, Ted. I have a friend named Rich Abbott that is starting a fellowship community called Wrestling Theology Fellowship, and he's working with a friend of yours named Jim Peters from T-Shirt for Troops. So I just wanted to see if you had any advice for Rich to get that going.
Well, I don't know exactly what is it he's trying to do. I mean, is he,
right now we meet together and watch wrestling and discuss fellowship. And eventually he wants to get, a bigger group out there and run some shows or some conventions to try to bring wrestling fans into the fellowship there.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, again, it's like I use wrestling for bait. It's like I have done some wrestling shows that were both by, it's like the people got, the fans got what they wanted to see. They got a wrestling show, but they got more than they bargained for because, at some of these shows, it segued into a gospel presentation where I had the opportunity to stand in the ring and share that story and try to impact some lives. And that's what you need to do. I mean, it's a tool. Jesus said he'd make us fishers of men. And every good fisherman knows there's different bait for different people.
Yeah.
My bait happens to be a wrestling match or a ring or some of my buddies. Like I did one, a few weeks ago, a month or so ago, Nikita Koloff was there, Lex Luger was there, Roadrunner Animals there, and George South was there.
Yep.
And all those guys are Christians now, and Lex, and so we did, a lot of guys are doing these, an intimate evening with, road stories where we're telling stories, we're having conversations like we're having right now, talking about the business and things that happened and funny things that went on. And we did that, and we answered questions from the fans, and they had an opportunity to take pictures and get pictures and all that stuff. But it also segued into 5 guys who've all shared one thing in common, the wrestling business, and now share another thing in common, a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and how that happened. So, I would just say, that's what you got to do. It's bait. Use it.
Tell you what, Ted, I didn't even get to talk about Stan Hansen with you. That just kills me. I'll have to have you come back on sometime. I hope you'll join us again and talk more wrestling.
I'd love to, man.
Before we let you go, if you would do me a huge honor and give us the old lovely $1 million laugh and give us a plug for the Undisputed Wrestling Show, that would be phenomenal.
All righty. Hey, everybody, it's Ted DiBiase, and you're listening to the Undisputed Wrestling Radio Show. And if you want to get your money's worth, then you need to stay right here. Because everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man.
Beautiful. Ted, tell everybody about your book. I know it's been out for quite a while now, but as a person who's read it, it's a great read about your career and also some good life lessons for everybody. Can you tell us about that real quick, where they can get that?
Just simply Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. It's Simon & Schuster's published it, and you can order it I think off of WWE, and you can usually get it anywhere that I am. You can buy an autographed copy from me. So, but yeah, I've had a lot of good feedback about the book, because the guy that helped me write the book, he took the time to go around and interviewed a lot of my contemporaries. So, like, there's quotes in there from Harley Race and Terry Funk, and just a number of stars that gives you a different twist. You hear comments, it's not only me telling my story, it's these other guys, talking about things that happen in our careers too. So, and I've had a lot of fans say they really enjoyed that about the book.
It's a great read. Hopefully everybody will grab a copy of that. Ted DiBiase, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Like I said, we'll welcome you back anytime, and God bless you, and we wish you nothing but the best in everything you do, my friend.
Well, guys, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on the show. And
the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, on the Undisputed Wrestling Show. Zane, Will, your thoughts?
Well, once again, I'd like to thank Mr. DiBiase for coming on. What a great open discussion that we had, and so much knowledge that we gained from that.